Welcome back, everyone. It's time for our September 2025 market update. And if you've been following along in any of my previous updates, you know that I've been watching the Raleigh, North Carolina market very closely, that I've been tracking inventory levels, shifting demand, and median home prices, and what it means for both buyers and sellers in our area. We're going to be looking at last month's numbers and at all price points for single-family homes in Apex, Cary, and Holly Springs. And then we'll zoom in on that $750,000 and above market to see how it compares. And make sure you stick around to the end because I'm going to share which town of all the towns I go over that ranked as the #2 real estate market in the entire country by Wallet Hub. I'm Trish Day with Realty Group, and welcome back to my channel. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any of my market updates. I do them every month. It'll give you a pulse of what's happening in the Raleigh, North Carolina housing market. Okay, let's get started. We're going to start off with Apex, where the median home price across all price points was $690,000, and that's up only 1.6% over last year. And days on the market is sitting around 27. So homes are still selling in under a month, but that means it's slower than it was last year, and inventory levels have jumped up 67%. Currently, there's 203 single-family homes sitting on the market in Apex. And that's one of the sharpest increases we've seen in recent times. And then when we look at that over $750,000 segment, the median price point dropped just a little bit, 2.7% to $890,000. And then when we look at months of supply, we're still under 3 months of supply, so still a seller's market in Apex. And really what it tells us is that the higher end homes in Apex are just adjusting, but they're still not oversupplied. Next, moving on to Cary, where the median home price overall is $658,000. And again, that's down only about 1.5% over last year. Days on the market, however, have doubled, and that's up about 114%. And we're now about 30 days on the market for a single family home in Cary. And that's the first time in a long time that we're seeing that it's going to take about a full month to sell a house in Cary. And again, we're looking at median numbers. So that number is just a median number. We are seeing houses sell a lot quicker and then some selling a lot slower. And really, that's really going to depend on pricing. We talked about it before. If you price your house correctly and it's in great condition, it's going to sell a lot quicker than that 30 days. The active inventory is also up in Cary. 250 homes are currently sitting on the market, and that's a 68% increase over last year. Again, it all goes back to pricing. I think a lot of sellers are still thinking they can get what they got last year, and we really need to price for the future and not for the past. And then zooming in on that $750,000 price point and above, the median home prices basically are flat. They didn't go up very much at all, 0.3%. But days on the market is what jumped almost 87% to 29 days on the market. And the inventory also rose in that price point to 121 days. And then when we look at that months of supply, we're about 4 months of supply, and that's a balanced market. So we're moving away from a seller's market in Cary. Again, I want to caution you, only certain houses. It really is hyper local. So when we start looking at certain neighborhoods, we are going to get different numbers. I'm just giving the broad numbers across the entire town. Next, let's move over to Holly Springs, where the median home price is $625,000, and that's up about 2%. And houses in Holly Springs are still selling pretty quickly, with the median number of days at 19. And that's the lowest of the towns that we're covering today. Although it's up about 123% over last year, it's still lower than what we're seeing across the triangle. And then when we look at inventory, we're about 135 houses on the market right now in Holly Springs. And of course, when we look at that $750,000 price point and above, that median home price is $852,000, and that's only up like 0.5% over last year. But days on the market in that upper price point is only 4 days on the market. And that's the fastest moving higher end market in the triangle towns that I'm covering today. And then when we look at inventory is about 46 homes in that price point, and that's up about 35% over last year. And similar to Apex, Holly Springs, months of supply is about 2 months of inventory, still indicating a seller's market in Holly Springs. Finally, let's talk about Raleigh, where we're going to see some interesting statistics. The median home price in Raleigh is $520,000, and that's up about 1% over last year. Days on market has jumped though to 34 days on market. That's up about 134%. And we are now seeing that it's taking a little bit more than a month to sell most homes in Raleigh. Inventory is also increasing to Raleigh, 1,100 homes on the market, so that's up about 16%. And the months of supply for all price points in Raleigh is about 3.6 months. So still getting closer to that balanced market. But here's the real headline. The homes over $750,000, we're starting to see a real shift. The median home price is now just over $1 million in that price point, so up about 3%. But these homes are taking much longer to sell. And that statistic jumped about 203% to 46 days on the market. And the real standout stat is that the months of supply has finally reached 6 months. And this is making it a true buyer's market. The inventory at this price point is about 433 homes, so that is up 12%. But again, I think the real thing that we need to concentrate on is at that higher price points in Raleigh, the houses are sitting longer. And I did run a quick stat too, as far as homes over $1 million in Raleigh, those are running 7 months of supply. So even longer and even more of a buyer's market in those higher price points. So what does this all mean? For buyers, you now have even more choices, especially at those higher end price points in the Raleigh market, where supply has definitely tipped in your favor and sellers are getting anxious to sell. And even in Cary and Apex, inventory is climbing, which is going to give you more leverage than we've ever seen in recent years. For sellers, homes are still selling, but not as quickly, and you have to be prepared, especially at those higher price points. And so pricing strategically and making your home stand out is more important today than it ever was. So if you're considering a move to the Raleigh, North Carolina area, these are stats that you want to keep an eye on, and you want to make sure that you're keeping a pulse on the market. And we definitely want to keep an eye on those days on the market because it's showing that the demand is cooling a little bit. Although we do see that historically in the fall months here in our area, our biggest selling months are in the springtime through summer. The other statistic we really want to look at is growing inventory, because this is going to create the supply that's necessary for competition, especially in Raleigh with those price points that are $750,000 or $1 million and above. And this is now becoming more of a shift where your negotiating power as a buyer is getting a lot better. But overall, I want to say our market is nowhere from collapsing. It's normalizing, especially at the higher end homes. These are all very normal numbers that we saw several years ago. It's just that we've seen such a rapid pace of the market over those previous years that it's like driving at 150 and then all of a sudden you're driving at 60. It makes it seem like 60 is very slow. And here's some extra validation. Cary was just named the #2 housing market in the entire US by WalletHub. And so that really underlines the long-term strength of this area, even as short-term numbers bounce around a little bit. And as I mentioned, we do see that in these fall months. So if you found this helpful, please check out my previous market updates to see how these numbers have been trending month over month. And of course, if you're planning to move to the area, reach out. I love to be your guide. You can reach me via my website, Day Realty Group. I'll leave the link right here and also below in the comments. And just wanted to say thanks for watching. And if you found this information helpful, give it a like and make sure you follow for future videos about what is happening around the Raleigh area. Thanks again, and we'll see you soon.